Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. It is a late episode or an early episode, depending on when you catch us. You might watch it on Friday morning, but I felt I just had to pop on. It is currently 20 to 12. It's very close to midnight, but news has broken over the last few hours that Newcastle United are closing in on a deal for Nottingham Forest Anthony Elanga. It's not done yet, but it's looking like it's going to get done over the next few days. And I'm off till Monday. So I just wanted to kind of bring you this update, waking up on Friday morning. If you haven't heard the news, some good news, positive news when it comes to Newcastle United in the transfer market, because it's been a little bit of a slog since the window opened on June the 1st. And of course, the 3 windows before that, it's been very, very hard going for Newcastle United fans and Newcastle United, because they will have wanted to have strengthened. We all know why they haven't been able to. Good old PSR. But it looks like Newcastle United are finally going to flex that financial muscle and bring a player in who they've loved and really liked for many, many years. They've watched him closely. Of course, they went in for him on transfer deadline day of last summer with a £50 million bid. It got knocked back. There was rumours in January, nothing happened, and here we are. He has really been the man at the top of the list. Brian Mbeumo, of course, was there as well. Then it came out about his wage demands, and Newcastle United rightly walked away because Brian Mbeumo wanted crazy wages, £250,000 a week. Man United happy to pay that. Newcastle United not happy to break the wage structure, which is very sensible. They've then turned to Anthony Elanga, like I say, a man who they've watched and admired. And it seems like the right fit for Eddie Howe. He is a young winger with the best years ahead of him, only 23. His numbers maybe don't jump off the page at you, but I think you do a deep dive there. It's definitely positives there. I mean, look, his assists in the last few years, he has done really well. 23 assists over the last couple of years, 14 goals, 113 appearances overall in the Premier League. As I say, his best years are ahead of him. Newcastle United have clearly seen something in him to go back and to pay this amount of money. £55 million is where they are currently at. My understanding is that Nottingham Forest still holding out for £60 million, but Newcastle United are confident this deal can get done. Whether they hold out and they manage to bring Forest down to 55 million, whether they throw in a couple of add-ons, maybe it's appearances, maybe it's trophies won, what have you. But I think this deal will get done. I said this a few weeks ago that I thought the deal was the one to watch out for, and I stick by that. I'm happy I did, because this is textbook Newcastle United. When they like a player and they get knocked back in the first stage and maybe a second and third stage, unless that door is firmly shut in their faces, they will go back. If they can sniff an opportunity to sign a player that they've watched and built up a report for, and there's reasons behind really liking a player, they'll go back in. We saw it with Sven Botman, and we saw it with Hugo Ekitike in many ways. That deal obviously didn't come off, but this is different. This deal is going to come off, and I think it makes perfect sense. Like I say, his age is right. He's got mates in the Newcastle United squad, very close with Wille Sula. He's a fellow Swede with Alexander Isak. So it all kind of falls into place, I think. And the wage as well is the key thing here. He's reported to be on £45,000 a week. Double that, and you haven't made a dent in the wage structure whatsoever. You go after someone like Brian Mbeumo, who's going to cost you 70 million, and maybe a little bit less, 60, 65 million. You are going to have to break your wage structure and pay £250,000 a week, maybe 200,000. And that's crazy, absolutely crazy. If you're going to do that, you're going to do it for a big, big star. And Burma wasn't that. Anthony Langa's not that. But his wage and what Newcastle United can pay without breaking that structure, I think makes this an attractive deal in terms of the wage being offered. Now, I know the price tag is scaring a few people. I get that. But the market is crazy. It's not your money as well, what I would say. I know that sounds a bit cheeky to say that, and maybe a bit condescending, but that's the way I look at it. It's not your money. It's not my money. It's the club's money, and the club deem this the right deal for Newcastle United to take Eddie Howe's Newcastle United forward, and you've got to trust them in it. They've done very little wrong in the transfer market over the last few years since the takeover happened, and you've got to back them. And I'm backing them 100% on this deal. Yes, 55 million, 60 million on the face of it looks a little bit too much, but I've got full confidence that Anthony Elanga in 3 to 5 years could be worth at least double that. And that, again, sounds crazy to a lot of people, but this is the way the market is going. You look at the numbers so far and what he could achieve under Eddie Howe. That's the key message here. Eddie Howe has proven that he can take players from a certain level and take them up 3-4 levels. Joe Linton is a prime example, but you've got others that you can name. Sean Longstaff, for example, Emil Kraft, a fellow Swede there as well. He's got a history, him and his staff, of taking players to the next level, above and beyond. And I think Eddie Howe, working with Anthony ELANGA, we will see Anthony ELANGA go from strength to strength. And I'm really excited about this one. I don't understand the negativity whatsoever when it comes to Anthony ELANGA. 23, best years ahead of him, chance to work with a manager, as I say, with a proven track record. I think he fits perfectly into this Newcastle United side. He is an upgrade on Jacob Murphy. He can play up top as well if needed, although of course we'd like him on the flank as his primary position, which I think he will be. But we should be excited about this. We've waited 3 windows for signing, and now Newcastle United are going to splash 55-60 million pound on a player, and people aren't happy because they deem it too expensive. But this is modern day football. I mean, was Jack Grealish worth 100 million pounds? Arguably not. And look, now City don't want him, and this is just the way it goes. For me, I think given his contract runs until June 2028 in Nottingham Forest, given that he's a core player and Nottingham Forest see him as a core player as well, see him as really instrumental to what they're trying to build at the City ground, given his performance last season and the season before that, they were always going to demand 55-60 million pounds, and I think they had a right to. And I actually think it's not far off what I think he's worth. I don't have any qualms with them paying 55-60 million pounds. When you look at the market, when you look at what other players are going for, I think it's probably about right. I do. I've got no arguments with it at all. And like I say, I think Newcastle United, not that they'll want to sell him if he's as good as I think he will be, but would have the potential to at least double their money in the years to come. But I'm very, very excited about this. We will have a Nottingham Forest take on it next week or whenever the deal is concluded, but it looks very, very close. Of course, there's still things to be worked out, but various reports say that Newcastle are on the brink of signing Anthony ELANGA for big, big money, but definitely one to be excited about. And I can't wait to see William Masula's reaction when Anthony ELANGA becomes a Newcastle United player. Of course, they've been hanging out over the last week. They've been on Instagram, pictured dancing together, and that obviously caught the attention of many of you guys. And William Masula being deemed the agent, Asula, to get this deal over the line. But we should be very excited about this. Newcastle United finally being able to spend a bit of money, and this is going to really make a dent. I think this is going to get noticed, and a lot of people say, "Oh, look at his numbers, it's overspending." But look, other clubs would admire of ELANGA. Aston Villa have been linked, Chelsea, of course, and Elton have been linked. And I thought for Manchester United, because they got rid of him for £15 million. So this is a massive profit, by the way, for Nottingham Forest, but they do have a 15% bit of money to send back to Old Trafford, sell-on clause. But, Man United sold him and replaced him with Anthony, who cost them £80 million. So I think they might look back on that with a little bit of regret. Of course, they're getting a little bit of money, which Man United fans are teasing Newcastle United fans and say it's going to help them sign Brian Mbeumo. That's fine. That's just, again, the way the world is when it comes to football. We can't help that. You can't blame Man United for having a sell-on clause in it. That's what every team should be doing when they're selling potential stars of the future. So yes, we are funding Manchester United's pockets slightly, but we're getting a very good player for what I think, like I say, will prove to be a bargain in years to come. And I'm sure everyone who's got a little bit of criticism of ELANGA, who maybe think he can't play in Eddie Howe's side, I'm sure you'll back him regardless of your opinion on him, because that's what you guys do. He's going to be playing in black and white. He's going to be putting everything into his performances, because it's not just his ability on the pitch, which has been noticed, it's his attitude as well, his work ethic. He's got his head screwed on, and that's really, really key. And that's why Nottingham Forest value him so highly. I'm told that, a lot of Nottingham Forest fans aren't very happy at this sale because they do think he's worth a little bit more than has been reported. That's why I think as well, speaking to people close to Nottingham Forest, they might actually get the £60 million that they've always been after. I reported a few weeks ago it was £60 million that they were looking for. and of course have managed to get Newcastle United up on 45 million. I think Newcastle United were always aware that 45 million was a little bit of a cheeky bid, but of course it's like when you're buying a house, you don't go in at the asking price. You want to have that negotiation in that room to maneuver. But it looks like we're getting close to a deal that suits all parties. Nottingham Forest are going to get a load of profit. Yes, they have to give a bit back to Manchester United, but they're going to have enough profit to reinvest. Newcastle are getting the winger and upgrade on the right wing, which they haven't had since the takeover. Took place. Nearly every other position has been strengthened, but the right wing was the one that hasn't. Of course, the soul Miguel Almiron, Jacob Murphy had a brilliant season, but you always question whether he could sustain that into the next season and beyond. Of course, he's 30, he doesn't look it, but he is getting a little bit towards over the hill. But that competition now on the right wing is going to be absolutely crucial, and they're getting a Premier League proven player on that right wing to compete with Jacob Murphy. They're getting that depth, which is going to be really important with all the games to come next season. And I'm just excited about this one. In 23, best years ahead of him. We should be excited. He is going to be a real talent for Newcastle United if this deal gets done. We have to hope it gets done over the next few days, because I think that'll just calm the nerves. That first sign in this window, because it has been a little bit nervy, I think will calm the nerves. And then I think we'll see the ball really starting to roll. And James Trafford will come in as well over the next week or so. And then we have to look around, and is it a right-sided centre-back? Is it a centre-forward? I think they need those two players. And I know that's where a lot of the worry comes. 55, 60 million pounds on ELANGA, 25, 30 million pounds on James Trafford. So already you're pushing towards 100 million pounds. Can you get a quality right-sided centre-back and a quality backup to Alexander Isak with the remaining budget, which is set to be 150, 175, 200 million at most? That's going to take all the negotiation skills of a very clever man or woman to get that budget fitted into Newcastle United strategy this summer. But it is doable. It is doable. And look, I think signing someone like Anthony ELANGA, who has got a good reputation, who has done good things so far in the Premier League, I think that works in terms of also, making other players stand up and say, I want to be part of that journey at Newcastle United. It'll please the stars at Newcastle United because they know how good he is. They've played against them. I mean, we all remember when Newcastle United were defeated on Boxing Day, and him and Chris Wood were absolutely superb together. He's been really good for Chris Wood, providing those assists. And Alexander Isak will be looking forward to playing with him, not only, of course, for Sweden, but for Newcastle United. But yes, I think this is the start of a really positive summer for Newcastle United. I said this on the Monday show, that I fully believe that Newcastle United will have a good summer, and that we'll look back on it and say what a brilliant summer it has been. This is the starting block. This is a starting point. Get James Trafford in, and we build from there. Then we look, hopefully, at a right-sided centre-back. I'd still like Mark Gay. Looks like that's not going to happen. So maybe you have to look to the continent to get a cheaper but quality centre-back in. I would love Nathan Collins from Brentford, but again, the price tag, you're probably looking at 45, 50 million pounds at least. Could you go after maybe Thiaw from AC Milan, who's rumoured to be available for just 25, 30 million pounds, a lot cheaper? That's one option. We know they've watched him. We know they were linked to him a few windows ago. There is better value for money potentially on the continent, but it's what Newcastle United want. Is it proven Premier League players right now to hit the ground running? You have to pay a bit of a premium for that, as we're seeing with ELANGA, as you would see with someone like Nathan Collins. But I think, if you are willing to pay that little bit extra, it really could benefit Newcastle United a lot sooner than maybe betting someone in from Europe. But look, we've seen it. Isak, we've seen Bruno, we've seen Botman right at home, Tonali right at home in Newcastle United. It took a little bit of time for them to get their opportunities. That's really how it does. But it is going to be interesting to see where Newcastle United go next, if indeed they do sign ELANGA, then James Trafford, and how much money they've got to spend on those other two key positions that they definitely do need in a striker and a right-sided centre-back. But that's all to come. Right now, we are talking about Anthony ELANGA potentially moving closer to becoming a Newcastle United player. I will be back for the Monday show alongside Aaron Stokes, hopefully where this deal, if it's not concluded, will be concluded on Monday morning, so we can talk about it on the Monday show come 1:30, 1:45 on Monday afternoon. But really excited about this one. I hope you guys are too. Get into the comments. Let me know your thoughts. Also, big thanks to Celia, sponsors for the podcast. If you're going abroad and you want to ensure that your internet connection on your mobile, hit up Celia. The link will be in the podcast description box. You get a discounted offer signing up via the podcast. It is an eSIM which keeps you connected. Loads of plans you can choose from. It's affordable, 24/7 support as well, which is really, really key. Stay connected and support the podcast at the same time. But there we have it, ladies and gents. Anthony ELANGA moving closer to becoming a Newcastle United player.